Do not attempt to adjust your set. This is a Streaming Freedom Video Bulletin. It cannot be stopped, and it is the only free voice left on the net. Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel. In today's Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed video, I wanted to make a help video that was solely aimed at new players, as the game was recently on sale, and I know with DLC 5 coming out that we probably have a bunch of new players to Spirits Unleashed, and I thought I could maybe give some tips and tricks for Ghostbuster players to help you have a more enjoyable experience. Now please be aware that of course I'm no expert at this game. I have been playing it since it originally came out, but I'm definitely not an expert. In any case, I will be going over some just general tips and tricks when playing as Ghostbuster on things to keep in mind when building your equipment, how to use your equipment, help you kind of understand why you might be having trouble moving the ghost left and right on the screen if it's really slow for you, things like that. And some of the information in this video will probably seem redundant to a lot of players, but you would be surprised how often I see people make these basic mistakes when they're playing. So the first thing that I want to go over is what you're seeing here on screen, and that's actually using the particle thrower on the ghost, as even this can be kind of confusing to newer players, as you need to be aware that when you're hitting the ghost in a particle stream, you're not actually doing anything to it until you actually tether lock it. That is when the stream ensnares the ghost and it briefly incapacitates it. The ghost then has the ability to fight the tether and break free. In any case, one of the things that you need to keep in mind with that is tether creation speed. When you start getting unlocks for your equipment and start building your equipment, you definitely want to have as high a tether creation speed as possible. In my opinion, that is one of the things that is most essential to catching the ghost. The faster that this is, the faster it can tether lock the ghost and be able to incapacitate them momentarily so that you might be able to catch them. Now keep in mind that ghosts will break a single tether like what you're seeing here extremely quick. So the more Ghostbusters that are on a tether, the longer it takes for the ghost to break it, but you can solo a ghost if you're good enough and if your equipment is built well. Speaking of building your equipment, some things that you want to keep in mind as you unlock the various attachments and add them to your overall build. Just because you might get a benefit in one area, like say for example the efficiency optimizer attachment for the proton pack, which helps with overheating, that same attachment will actually affect the tether creation speed of the particle thrower negatively. So if you're going for a quick tether build, then that is something that you would not want to add, otherwise it will affect your tether creation. Sometimes it's not by a lot, but it can make a difference on certain ghosts. So if again you're going for a quick tether build, you don't want anything affecting it negatively. You can see as you add the various attachments what they change, the positive and negative effects they have, and then you can build your equipment around that. Now, one of the other things to keep in mind that I think is just as important as tether creation for the particle thrower is stream control. If you notice that you're having a lot of trouble when you tether lock the ghost, moving it left and right on the screen, let's say for example that you toss your trap to the right of the screen, the ghost is to the left, and you've locked it in a tether and you're trying to pull it to the trap, but as you're moving it, it's extremely slow to move the ghost across screen. That is because of stream control. The lower that stat is, the harder it's going to be for you to be able to move the ghost back and forth. So you definitely want to have that up as high as possible, as well as your tether creation. And just like tether creation, there are some attachments that can affect the stream control negatively. For example, the active heat isolator, which is an attachment you can get for the particle thrower, which does greatly help with the heat generation, unfortunately also negatively affects the stream control. And depending on what you are using on your particular build, it could affect it to the point that you're really not able to move the ghost very fast at all, which will give it more than enough time to break free. So again, depending on what you're going for, then these are all things that you need to keep in mind when adding the various attachments, seeing how they work for you, and then changing up what you need to. For example, my particular build is quick to tether the ghost and quick to move it around the map, but it comes at the cost of it overheating extremely quickly too, and I have to vent it quite often. Now, if you're good at managing your heat and venting when you need to, then that may not be an issue for you. However, if you're someone that you're annoyed by constantly having to vent the pack and you don't want it to overheat as often, then that particular build may not be effective for you. The great thing about Spirits Unleashed is there are many different types of builds that you can use with the various attachments, but you will have to experiment and see what works best for your playstyle. And if you're wondering what attachments might be best for your particular build, you can actually test that before unlocking them. I will link a video that I did do quite a while back, so some things in the game has changed, but the method still works. That will allow you to be able to test the various attachments in an offline mode. You can't keep the attachments when you come back online, they'll still be locked. But by testing them offline, it gives you a feel for how the various attachments work and will ultimately help you in deciding what to unlock first, so you don't waste your time in unlocking something that you're ultimately never going to use. You can of course then later unlock it once you have your main build set. Now for some just general tips for Ghostbuster players, and again, some of this is going to seem quite obvious and like I shouldn't have to state it, but you'd be surprised how often I see players make this mistake. And one of the first is, I can't believe I have to say this, but get a ghost trap down when you're trying to catch the ghost. You'd be surprised how many times I'll come up on somebody that they are tethering a ghost. Now, there are times the ghost traps can be broken, so there are times that the teammate's trap has been broken, and that's why they don't have it down. But there's often times that I'll see a player trying to tether the ghost, or multiple players tethering it, but nobody will put a trap out. And where do you think you're going to put the ghost? Once the ghost breaks the tether, they have a little bit of immunity where they won't be able to be tether locked again, and they can then flee or attack you. So if you are going to try to solo the ghost, make certain that you get a trap down first before firing the stream and alerting it to your presence if it's not aware of you. Also, if you do see that a teammate has a ghost in the tether, whether they already have their trap down or not, get yours out too. Throw it out first and then reinforce the tether. That way, if the ghost happens to break free from the one trap because it either has a low battery, the ghost just breaks free, whatever, then you have a second opportunity to get the ghost into another trap right away. Remember, every second counts when trying to attempt to bust the ghost, and they can use that to get away if you have to take the time to get a trap down and then try to throw another tether on it. Now, speaking of having a ghost tethered, something that I often see players do, and I think it's such a mistake, some people swear that it isn't, is when you're stunning the ghost, if the ghost is locked in a tether by another player, you never want to use your stun at that time. While the ghost is tether locked, the only thing that it can do is bash out of the tether, the minigame that comes up for it, to try to break free. By you going ahead and using the stun on the ghost, it's not actually affecting it, even though it gives you the sound like it is. That then gives the ghost enough time, because you haven't helped reinforce the tether, to break the tether all the easier and then get away. What you always want to do if you see a teammate is got the ghost in a tether, get your trap down, throw your stream on it, and try to help drag it into the trap. The only times that I would suggest going ahead and actually trying to stun the ghost while it's in a tether is if by chance you have overheated and that is your last resort. Try to wait until you know the ghost is about to break free, then go ahead and throw the stun, and it might buy you enough time. But often I see people try to stun it first and then throw a stream, and by then the ghost has been able to break itself free. Also, don't forget when you have a trap on the field that it's not necessary to actually tether the ghost first if the ghost is close enough to the trap like you saw there. That particular ghost, as you saw, did incapacitate me, but he then stayed around and started trying to get away, so as soon as I broke free, I stepped on the pedal and I was able to trap him without even having to throw a tether on the ghost. And a couple of more tips that I can think of off the top of my head while we close out the video is that the Drudge, which are the other ghost type that you will see flying around the map, that's not the main ghost type. You want to destroy those as soon as possible. While they're out, they can throw off the readings that the PKE gives, making it hard for you to track the actual main ghost. As well as with some ghosts like the Overlord class that you see here, Samhain, it can actually make them stronger the more Drudge and the more active rifts they have out on the field. So you want to try to destroy those as soon as possible. You can simply just pop them by locking them in a tether and keeping the stream on them. Or you can go ahead and use the trap and trap them if you want to do it a little bit quicker, but then you'll have to wait for the trap to recharge if you don't have much of a battery life. And as far as the minions that the ghost is able to drop, those come in two variety, at least at the time of this recording. The swarm minions that you'll see multiple minions around, and they are able to take and swarm you and slime you down. and the trap minion, which you will find is a single minion that will attach to your head and initiate a minigame where you have to get it off. The minions can be caught very easily using the trap, much quicker actually than using the particle stream to destroy them. And in the case of the trap minion, they have a telltale sign that they've been placed somewhere. You'll see a faint little bit of like a particle effect where they're at. So if you see that particle effect, you can just throw a trap right there and suck them up. That way you don't get hit by one of them. My final tip would be that no matter what the particular attachment is that you use on your build, keep in mind that it doesn't always work if you're not the primary tether. You can tell if you're the primary tether by the white chain link that you see form on the left hand side when you have control of the ghost and you're able to move it around, like you see right here, where I'm using the dual vertical grips to pull it to the trap. However, if I am reinforcing the tether and that white chain link is on the right hand side, then I can't use my dual vertical grips. Whoever the primary tether is has complete control of the ghost. So I hope that these tips were able to help you out in getting started in Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed, and I just wanted to say welcome to the Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed community. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video. Take care. This has been a Streaming Freedom Video Bulletin. Peace out.